Theodore. He's a tugboat and a friendly tugboat too. A friendly tugboat too. Oh, Theodore likes to do the things that friendly tugboats do. Pushing and a pulling in the great big harbor, in the great big world is so much fun. So many brand new things to discover. Waking with the sun, gotta get the job done. Oh, Theodore and Emily, Bodak, Hank and George, and the harbor master too.
It was the coldest day in the big harbor anyone can remember in a long time. It was so cold that the dispatcher was wearing earmuffs and a scarf.
Good morning,
he said. The dispatcher had a bad cold.
Whoa. Time out. Someone want to explain to me how the hell the dispatcher got a scarf and earmuffs? And that's funny, I don't remember buildings getting sick. Logic, I suppose. Anyway, the tugs were all given new ropes to test for the winter. Unfortunately, as the tugs tried to confirm this with the dispatcher, apparently the cold was messing with his hearing.
I think this red rope looks very modern,
said Fodak in a strong, clear voice.
Who?
Said the dispatcher. His cold seemed to be making it hard for him to hear. Theodore spoke up loudly.
This new red tow rope. Slowpoke? Are you calling me a slowpoke?
No, sir, said Theodore quickly. I said tow rope. The new red ones, the ones we're all testing today.
Resting today? Why are you resting today? You're supposed to be testing the new tow ropes,
said the dispatcher.
Okay, that voice is kind of funny, but I've still never heard of a cold messing with your hearing. Then again, I can neither confirm or deny if this is true for some. Anyway, after the meeting, Theodore and Hank meet up with Petra to bring in a ship whilst testing their brand new ropes.
You ready, Hank? said Theodore. Ready, replied Hank. Theodore began to move forward. He glanced at his bright new red rope. It looked pretty good, and sure enough, it was getting straighter and straighter. Then he started to feel it getting tighter. Theodore began to pull. But then, a terrible thing happened. All of a sudden, the new red rope just snapped. The cargo ship bumped right back into Hank. Ow! Hank, are you all right? Called Theodore, chugging over to his friend. Oh, I'm okay, said Hank. What a bump! What happened, Theodore? Theodore's rope snapped, said Petra. I'm very sorry, said Theodore. I don't know why it happened. Hank, said Petra, you better go to the repair yard to see if you're all right. And you need to go back to the dock, Theodore, Petra continued. I'll use my radio to call the dispatcher and ask him to send another tug to finish this job. Okay, said Theodore sadly. He felt badly about what had happened. He thought he had made some kind of mistake, but he wasn't quite sure what it was.
Yeesh, with a snap like that, those ropes don't look very safe, as Petra tried to explain that to the dispatcher. But again, due to his cold, he couldn't make out the message. And unfortunately, he mistakes the problem with the ropes to be about one of the tugs. And that poor soul to take that hit is Theodore.
Theodore was on his way back to the great ocean dock when he saw the dispatcher waiting for him. Uh-oh, he thought. The dispatcher doesn't look very happy. I wonder if it's because of the mistake I made. But then, what the dispatcher said was worse than Theodore could ever have imagined.
Dangerous and can't be counted on. This is the worst report I've ever had about one of my tugs.
What? Sputtered Theodore. He was very surprised by what the dispatcher was saying. You see, being sick was making the dispatcher grumpy.
I'll have to deal with this later,
he said.
I need to rest now. In the meantime, Theodore, you have to stay here at the dock.
Stay at the dock, echoed Theodore.
Stay at the dock,
repeated the dispatcher.
And do not leave for any reason.
Ouch, that really sucks. How could anyone really believe Theodore is dangerous? Then again, we are dealing with Sicky here. So afterwards, Hank visits Theodore at the dock to try and cheer him up, but Theodore is still upset as to why he's in trouble.
Hi, Theodore. They checked me out and I'm fine. They ran out of the new red ropes we're testing, so I can only get you one of our old regular brown ones. Well, I guess that's about all I deserve, said Theodore. What? Said Hank. He didn't think that sounded like Theodore at all. The dispatcher told me I have to stay at the dock. What for? Wondered Hank. I really don't know, said Theodore. It must have been a mistake, said Hank. The dispatcher? Make a mistake? Said Theodore. The dispatcher doesn't make mistakes. Just then, Petra arrived, looking very worried. George and Emily are having trouble with the container ship. I need the two of you to come with me and help. But Theodore did nothing. More than anything, he wanted to help his friends, but he knew he wasn't allowed to. I'm sorry, I can't leave the dock, he said quietly. The dispatcher said I have to stay here. I don't even know why. Well, there must have been some mistake, said Petra. I'll talk to the dispatcher. But then Petra saw the do not disturb sign the dispatcher had hung up. Petra made up her mind then and there. Theodore, she said, I'm the pilot boat on this job, and I need you. I'm ordering you to leave the dock right now. Well, Theodore was needed. And after all, Petra had given an official pilot boat order. Off he went.
Well, there's no getting out of that. An emergency is an emergency. But I can see why Theodore would be worried about leaving in case he did get into any more trouble. With that said, as Theodore arrives, he sees that Emily and George's ropes have both snapped, and moments later the same thing happens to Hank. I don't know what kind of material those ropes are made of, but whatever the heck they are, they suck. Meanwhile, Theodore has one of his old ropes, but would it work? Let's find out.
Slowly, he began to pull. Soon he would be pulling the ship, but would the old tow rope work? The container ship started to move, just a little bit at first. All the others held their breath. Theodore's rope was stretched out all the way. Theodore made a determined face and gave the ship his mightiest pull. And the big container ship followed behind. Theodore pulled the container ship into her dock, and all the tugs let out a great cheer. Hooray for Theodore, shouted Hank. Good work, added George. But Theodore didn't look happy. In fact, he looked very worried. What's the matter, Theodore? Asked Emily. I was just thinking I'm going to get in more trouble. The dispatcher did say I had to stay in the dock.
Stay in your dock? Why?
Asked George. For no reason, said Hank, that we can think of, he added quickly. That's strange, said Emily. How could he make a mistake like that? The dispatcher doesn't make mistakes, said Theodore.
You sure about that, Theodore? 'Cause you wouldn't be in this situation had the dispatcher not been sick. If anything, all of this is really his fault. After that, all the tugs gather back at the dock whilst Petra explains everything to the dispatcher.
Theodore slid quietly into his place at the dock. He hoped the dispatcher hadn't noticed he was gone.
Ah, Theodore,
Said the dispatcher.
you're here.
Yes, sir, said Theodore quietly.
Theodore,
He began.
I should not have told you to stay at the dock.
Theodore didn't say a word.
Petra has just explained everything that happened.
The dispatcher continued.
The problem was with the red ropes, not you. I didn't hear Petra very well. I made a terrible mistake, and I'm very sorry.
I didn't think you ever made mistakes, Theodore said. Of course I do, said the dispatcher with a smile in his voice.
It wasn't my first, and it won't be my last. And I'm sure I wouldn't have snapped at you if I hadn't had this terrible cold.
That's funny, laughed Hank. Our tow ropes wouldn't have snapped either if the weather hadn't been so cold. Agreed Fodok.
It was a real cold snap.
And everyone, even the dispatcher, had a good laugh about that.
And that concludes the cold snap. This one was pretty good. I do like how it explains that basically everyone makes a mistake every now and again, and there's really no shame to it. That's practically what makes us human. It's a great lesson that not only Theodore learned, but kids will also pick up on this if they ever feel the same way. The visuals were pretty much the same, aside from the little area where Theodore towed in the ship, and the only major tune to focus on was literally during the exact same part, whilst keeping the standard Theodore music. But yeah, there's really nothing else more I can say. Next up is Hank and the Hug.